the opposition on this law has already highlighted the weaknesses of the communication strategy of this law. If the consultant has spent 1 year drafting this law, and I believe they need more time for communication, for engagement, especially when this policy has far-reaching consequences with our laws, with our way of lives, with even physical balances among states. So it requires just beyond the retreat. I heard that they met with the governors, they met with the senators, but they also need the buy-in of the people. Apart from the critical stakeholders, you need the popular support from the people. So that will have to also mean telling stories, capturing the vision of the people so that people will understand the destination where they are going for, and then trace back to where we are and what we need to do now, and then allowing people to bring their inputs before it's even introduced to the National Assembly. So it makes it like a people plan, like a people bill. But because if you look at the sophistication of the bill, people will be worried that they might be endorsing something that they might regret later. So it requires more time for the engagement than it has taken them to even draft the law. Now, if the National Assembly members will have to sell this law, they have to believe in it first. They have to believe that this represents their interests. So this is the gap first. So the people that are supposed to go and engage with the people don't believe in it. And that's why the governors are now going to meet with the senators now and see what opinion are they going to come up with. But that's why that's the beauty of democracy, because now at this level, public hearings will be hard and people will be engaged. The committee now will be hearing and inputting the opinion of the people into this bill. So this is a very perfect opportunity for Nigerians. But the senators have to believe in it. They have to go and start educating people about it. They have to understand it first and then accept it and then present it in a way that it will be accepted and people to even give their input. So this is where we need to engage with stakeholders, the traditional, the religious, and the politicians as well, so that they can take this further down to the people, because these things need to be amended before it can be presented at the National Assembly, because the two chambers, they have to have concurrence. They have to believe that two of them, they harmonize on the stand of this law. And I know the president will not just sit back. It is something I know he's very passionate about. He wants to push for it. He wants to engage and mobilize the politicians to have him do that. So for me, we have to sit down with the people and tell them the tail-end story of what's going to happen if this law is passed. Because this is another campaign. They have to be lobbying for the policy, and the president should not be rigid, should be flexible, should be willing to also compromise some of the provisions. Because what matters is, are you doing what people want? As a leader, you don't do what you want, even though it makes sense to you, but you don't force it to people. Your job is to create the vision and communicate the vision so that you get the buy-in of the people. It does not make sense if the president bringing policies and implementing those policies, the people will not accept it. We understand that the removal of subsidy, it was not the popular choice of Nigerians. The president have done that at the Eagle Square. Nigerians had no choice. They gave him the benefit of the doubt. But with this policy, Nigerians, I think they have a voice. They can stand on the way to stopping this law. They will do everything possible to stop it if they don't believe in it. So it's the job of the politicians, the president, now to communicate, come down to the people level and educate them why he's doing it. This is not personal. You are doing it for the people. If people don't want it, let them have their way. With regards to the reaction of Nigerians and how they accept it without looking into the details, it tells you that Nigerians are experiencing paranoia. And this is stemming from their experience from the two famous policy of this administration, the removal of subsidy and the floating of the dollar. Because these two policies have hit the economy and Nigerians. So Nigerians are now skeptical about anything that's coming from this administration, that, hey, is this another harsh policy coming? So anything that comes from this government, people say, no, we don't trust it. They don't even want to open to see it. And this coupled with the desperation, the urgency to pass this bill, despite the technicality, the volume of the changes in the policy, but there is limited time to engage with the people. I believe that a lot of time spent more than a year to bring up these reforms. they are good in themselves, but there are areas where we need to look at it and review to make sure that we carry people along. And despite the opposition from critical stakeholders in the country, but still the government wants to push for it and look at the manner how it was presented at the National Assembly. Some senators are thinking that it's being squeezed into the business order of the day, and people were not informed. Some senators have traveled, and then this sensitive policy is being passed so quickly. Second reading has been passed, and the timing is not appropriate because you need to engage more with the people to get their buy-in before you present it and even announce it. So let people support it before it's even being introduced in the National Assembly, because even the senators are finding it very difficult to understand the nitty-gritty of the policy. These are even more exposed people than the people in the Federal House of Representatives, because you have the two houses have to agree on this. So the technicality, the volume of the law is not balanced. This underscore the importance of sending people that are knowledgeable, educated to the National Assembly. Yeah, you can elect people, the president, governors, but those that make laws, you need to send people that are educated, that are willing and capable to read laws and even query them. Because if you look at this law, when I read the four laws, the Nigerian Tax Bill, the Nigerian Tax Administration Bill, the Nigeria Revenue Service, the Joint Revenue Board Bill, if you look at them, some of them are very good because they are modernizing and making the tax collection administration very easy, centralizing systems so you can trace revenues from tax. They're very good. If you look at the personal income tax, it makes life easier for Nigerians, the people that earn less than 800,000 naira in a month. They don't have to pay anything. If you have a company that you don't earn up to 50 million naira, you don't have to pay tax. These are good things. No one is talking about the good side of it. So instead of throwing all these things, now for example, if you have 800,000, now you pay about 24%. But now after this bill, they say you're not paying anything. So it's cause for jubilation. But what Nigerians should be looking at is the specific content of this law. For example, why do you have to increase the VAT from 7.5 to 15%? And
it'll be incremental.
And after incremental, the space of years, for 5-6 years. So you just remove petroleum subsidy and you're increasing the consumption tax. So it's not consistent, because when you remove subsidy, you should anticipate people to face higher prices.
So this is the argument that they should be bringing forward.
Exactly. So you're not saying that this law is bad. You say, okay, let's take the VAT, single item. I say, don't increase it. Okay, we agree we can increase only 0.05. Okay, make it 8%. Okay, agree, we agree. And then you pick the issue of derivation. When the state are sharing their share of the tax, of the VAT,
based on sales?
What we have right now is the state are sharing 20% of their share. But now you're saying, let's increase to 60%. No. Instead of 60%, can we make it like 25%, 30%? We understand your argument. Your argument is that the headquarters, the big companies, they file their tax collection in the big cities. The big cities take away the major part of the revenue, even though the consumption took place in other small states. So now what this law is saying, lest the tax revenue be credited to where the consumption taken place, where it has taken place. So this will give small states benefit from the consumption that happened in their state, even though they didn't have the headquarters of these big companies. Yeah. So for example, if you have a beverages company, let's say Coca-Cola, producing in Lagos, and when they send their product, maybe 20 trucks to maybe their dealer in Kano, that Kano state dealer can supply information how many crates of Coca-Cola he has sent to Katsina, to Jigawa. And based on this, then we can conclude these are the Coca-Cola bottles that are consumed in Katsina. So that when they are filing in Lagos, so now we take this revenue back to Katsina. Unlike what's happening now, whatever produced in Lagos by Coca-Cola is going to Lagos State. So that there is imbalance. There is no fairness in the current system. But this open system for fairness, though you can have to ask, then how do you trace every consumption?
Exactly, because that is that's where they, how do we trace every single one?
How do you trace? So for Coca-Cola, maybe you can do that. For telecommunication, perhaps you know where the calls coming from. Yeah, but there are other consumptions that you cannot trace. but you're still going to have that kind of imbalance. But you put in 60% and exposing the states to this kind of inefficiency or weakness of our market system, you're not being fair.
Wait, in terms of tracing, if people have shops in those states, is it not you go there, you look at your income, your stock, so they can, I think they can trace it easily because it has to be with what did you have in stock and what was distributed.
For example, if you look at small states, before you get a supermarket, a standard shop that prints and add VAT to every expenditure, you understand, it's going to be very small number of them. But you have local markets, you have market that sells animals, the agri product. You don't trace this kind of consumption. There are so many consumption that are beyond the financial system that you may not be able to trace.
Sorry to jump in. Even though they say if you're earning, 1,800,000, no tax for you per annum, but you're still going to pay if you buy if you consume any of those facilities, any of those products. You pay tax in those consumption.
You're not paying both. Right now, we're paying both. You're paying. I don't know.
Exactly. So you're being
because what we have is that you've been paying both. You've been paying tax on your small
so
money.
It's not holiday.
And so it's just one that they've removed.
Another area I believe also that is a very big contention is the issue of equality, sharing the revenue based on equality of the states. So initially it was 50% you shared equally, but now you are sharing equally only 20%. So there is no equality. Your level of equality is being seen at the weight of 20%. But it makes sense when you say it's 50%. Population is being reduced from 30%. Though I see reason why states should be incentivized for consumption rather than population. And if you look at consumption volume or value at a time, some states that are richer, they have individual consumption that are big in number. For example, in Lagos, somebody can walk into a restaurant and buy food of worth 300,000. In Katsina, highest consumption, you can have 5,000. So it's still going to have that kind of big imbalance between the state, even if you are taxing the consumption. And that's why the law itself was aware of this unfairness. That's why I say that 5% for physical
But
balancing.
you get something than nothing.
So, but I like what the president said when he said, go to the National Assembly. If you have issue, go to the National Assembly. The National Assembly, after this second reading, this is opportunity for Nigerians to now query and ask their senators, this is what we want. We look at this. Let's have town hall meetings. Let's have engagement, media. So educate people first, and then senators engage with them. I understand the president may not be popular. He was not voted by the majority of Nigerians. So any policies that he brings, people would like to oppose it without looking into it. But I believe that we have so many common ground. There are so many things that we share in common in this policy that let's look at this common ground. Even the governors now, they're showing concern about what's going to happen. What's going to be our power? Can we still collect the consumption tax? What's happening when we have this big company that's coming to us, still collecting revenue? What happened to us? Before I come to that, what you said about the confidence that people have in the leadership. So you want me to give more tax. And you want me to accept tax reform. But what benefit am I getting from the government?
Absolutely.
Now, we've seen cases of even former governors being accused of corruptions, hundreds of billions. And people will say, you are collecting more tax from me. Am I incentivizing more corruption? What happens? What's the marginal cost and the marginal benefit of government? People will weigh all the benefit they get compared to what they are being taxed. So people want to see what's on ground. There's a lot of borrowing in the country, more than 100 trillions of debt. And you have local revenue generating agency surpassing their limit. So why will the government have to keep borrowing? And now why will the government have to have this kind of bogus and big budget? So why won't the government stay within its limits? What we can generate instead of taxing people, because revenue comes with the burden. Because when you increase revenue of government, it comes with burden on the society and it hurts the economy. The government might say, okay, we can still borrow because our borrowing is not up to 50% of our GDP, but it hurts the microeconomy because if you look at the inflation exchange rate, it's hurting the economy at micro level. And that what should concern the federal government. So what the government should be focusing now is not increasing revenue, but spending the money where it's appropriate. The government may have to solve all the problems at once. Fixing one big problem or important problem or significant problem will solve all other problems. And for the rigidity, both sides have to be flexible, have to be willing to come and meet somewhere so that both sides will understand one another. So we're all not doing this for personal gain. It's not win or I defeated him. It's what's good for the country. So the common interest is the country, is the people. And that's what we share in common. And if we have this common goal, then we can meet somewhere.